It is Friday, the last day of May. June starts tomorrow. The NBA Finals are set, and this is WagerTalk Today. And I am not the Prez. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. He is on assignment. He'll be back Monday, but I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Teddy Covers from Las Vegas, Nevada. And we've got a great Friday show. Going to talk some baseball, of course, because the NBA Finals don't start for another 6 days. So lots of baseball over the next several days. That is your bread and butter moneymaker on a daily basis this summer. Also going to talk some soccer as well with our first guest, Jesse Schule, baseball, and also some UCL final talk in soccer. Going to bring on Ross Benjamin as well. Ross and I do daily NBA videos, but we'll have a little bit of a break for a few days. So we're going to talk baseball in depth with Ross Benjamin. Going to look at the Astros Twins and also the Royals Padres games. And then, of course, it's Friday, so we have Arthur DiCesare from the Westgate at Superbook in Nevada. And we're going to have our segment with Arthur where we talk about all the different sports from the other side of the counter. Teddy Covers, welcome. Always great to be here with you. And let's bring on Jesse Schule, our first guest for Friday. Jesse, welcome to the show. You know, I mentioned you and I and Ross. I mentioned Ross and I are doing NBA videos. You've also been doing the daily NBA videos, doing a great job with those on WagerTalk TV. And, of course, you can find Jesse at sportsmemo.com. NBA Finals are set, Jesse. We get a little bit of a break for a few days.
Yeah, I was a little bit shocked to see Minnesota go down without a fight yesterday. I was a little bit disappointed in that. I did have a 5% play on the Timberwolves for the first quarter, and it's never a good thing to lose a 5% play, but it does happen. I've still won 16 of my last 19, so those percentages are still up there. But on the free play video on WagerTalk TV, I did give out their team total under, which might sound counterintuitive, but it did cash anyway. So the free play customers will be happy.
Let's start with some MLB for today. The Marlins and the Rangers. Looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen. Texas is taking the money right now, and the over is taking the money right now. I'm seeing the Rangers minus 125, minus 130 on the WagerTalk live odds screen. The free WagerTalk live odds screen. Total sitting 8.5, juice to the over. Sanchez and Urena. What are we doing with this one?
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see money coming in on the over, Teddy. This one's got slugfest written all over it. If you ask me, the Rangers come in as winners of 3 straight. They do have an above-average offense, ranking 11th in the major leagues in scoring with 249 runs, which translates into roughly 4.5 runs per game. The problem for Texas is their pitching staff. They've run into injury problems, which has forced them to call up Jose Urena. He's been working out of the bullpen for the majority of the season, 14 appearances, just 4 starts. He's sitting with a 3.53 ERA, which sounds pretty good, but I think that's fool's gold. This is a guy that came up with the Marlins, was supposed to be the Marlins' next ace back in 2015. He had a few decent seasons in Miami, but it never really worked out there. He had to move on. He's been bouncing around the minors and the majors the last 3-4 seasons. This guy has posted an ERA over 5 in 7 of the last 9 seasons. He's got a career 1.40 whip. And the book on Urena for me is a guy that gets a lot of strikeouts, but puts a lot of men on base, walks a lot of batters. And that's evidenced by his last start. 5 innings pitched, 3 runs, 9 hits, 1 walk. He struck out 6. I think he's looking for trouble here in Miami. And the Marlins, you know, they've struggled this season. They rank near the bottom of the major leagues in runs scored, but they're picking up the pace of late. If you look at MLB park factors, you'll see that the Marlins' home park ranks 9th as far as favorable to hitters. And Sixto Sanchez for the Marlins, 0-3 with a 6.25 ERA. Doesn't exactly inspire a lot of confidence as far as shutting down Texas. Like I said, I'm expecting a high-scoring game here, Teddy.
So I want to ask you talked about the Marlins offense and how well that they've done when you look at some full season numbers. I look at Miami right now, and they scored 3 runs or less 6 times their last 7 ball games. Texas, 4 runs or less 9 times in their last 11 ball games. So I'm seeing 2 lineups that really aren't hitting the baseball well right now. And the fact that the Marlins keep putting Sanchez out there, you know, Sixto Sanchez has had, he's not a pitcher that the betting markets support so much. But Miami keeps throwing him out there every 5 days, telling me they think that this guy has something. Do any of those factors concern you here? The 2 cold lineups and the fact that Miami still has some faith in Sanchez, a guy who the betting market seemed to have lost faith in of late.
I figured you were going to say that, Teddy, because you've been known to be a bit of a ball buster. But I will point out that the Marlins have won. The Marlins have won 9 of their last 14 overall, and they had to score some runs to get those 9 wins. And they're facing a Texas team that ranks 29th in team ERA by relief pitcher. So one of the worst bullpens in all of the major leagues for Texas. The Marlins bullpen isn't that great either. If we don't get the runs until the later innings, I still think they're coming. Over for me all the way. Not concerned.
Jesse Schule talking a little bit of baseball here on Friday's Wager Talk Today. And, of course, you can find Jesse at sportsmemo.com, so be sure to check him out. He's been doing a great job this year. And once again, when the NBA Finals begin next week, be sure to check out his daily NBA videos here on Wager Talk TV. All right, Jesse, we're going to transfer over to soccer. Champions League final apparently is this weekend. I do not follow soccer, but I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about this one, because worldwide, this is a pretty big betting event.
Yeah, Steve, you might remember 2 weeks ago I came on this show with you and Andy, and I gave out a play for the final game of the regular season in the English Premier League. That one was Crystal Palace taking on Aston Villa, and Aston Villa was supposed to be the better team. I gave out a play on Crystal Palace, and they won 5-0. Just wanted to get that fresh in everybody's memory. But here in the Champions League final, I'm not going to be quite as creative, not going to reinvent the wheel. Real Madrid's the better team. It's clear cut. The price of minus 160 probably should be higher, in my opinion. Dortmund is the Cinderella team. They come in on decent form. Obviously, they had to win a few games to get here. But if you look at their path to the final, they beat Paris coming out of the French league. The French league is one of the weakest European leagues out there. Paris is a big club. They got some famous players, but they don't play any real competition domestically, and they generally don't fare too well in Champions League play. And then PSV from another smaller league, and Atletico Madrid, a Spanish team. So not a very challenging path to the final for Dortmund. But Madrid, they played Bayern Munich, the German giants, Leipzig, another team that finished ahead of Dortmund in the table there in the Bundesliga, and they beat Man City. And Man City and Real Madrid, the two top teams in European football. And the leading scorer for Real Madrid is a guy by the name of Jude Bellingham. He's English. He used to play for Dortmund, and now he's with Real Madrid. He had 19 goals this season for Real Madrid. And at the end of the day, Dortmund is the kind of team where you go to get playing time, play well, so you get a big contract and go to a bigger club like Real Madrid. And if you want to win championships, you go to a team like Real Madrid. If you want to get a big contract with a better club, you go to a place like Dortmund. When you're betting an underdog like Dortmund, one of the things you like to look at is their form, how well they've been playing in recent matches. But neither of these teams have played a meaningful match in over 3 weeks. So whatever form they were at that point might have worn off. And when we get to the Champions League final, it's going to be more about class and skill and talent. And that all favors Real Madrid here. And like I said, the price should probably be a little bit higher. So I'll back Real Madrid minus 160.
So, Jesse, it's important to note that the follow-up questions are not specifically for the point of ball busting. What we're trying to do, I mean, there's two factors to it. One is that there's so many shows out there, there's no pushback whatsoever. And we've always tried to make Wager Talk Today a little bit different. So I give some pushback. And we're trying to make it entertaining, and we're trying to let the audience get a feel for some of the questions they might have about any particular game. So I'm not just busting your balls. I bust everyone's balls for this part of the show.
Oh, yeah. I love ball busting, Teddy. I love it.
Exactly. It's what we do. It's 40 plus. We've all done it. We all do it. I want to ask about the location here. I mean, so we don't ever worry about a Super Bowl location. You know, it's here, it's there, it's wherever. This is in Wembley. Does that matter at all? We got a German team and a Spanish team, and they're playing in Wembley, or is it just a non-factor?
I'm going to half answer your question, Teddy. I don't think the location of Wembley favors either side. They're both these teams are quite familiar with playing in England, the players from both teams. But one thing that I didn't point out that is worth pointing out is the European Championships kick off in 2 weeks in Germany. So for a team coming out of Germany, that could be a bit of a distraction. The fact that they're hosting such a major event in a short period of time after this match. And that would be one thing I'd consider. But as far as playing at Wembley, I think everybody's comfortable playing at Wembley. Certainly Jude Bellingham is comfortable playing at Wembley.
Finally got to watch the Tom Brady roast this week, and all this ball busting talk reminds me of Julian Edelman's saying a segment there. And there's rumors, by the way, we want a Wager Talk roast. Live chat, let us know if that's a good idea. I'm assuming everybody thinks it's a fantastic idea. And boy, would have to think Prez and Teddy would be at the heart of a lot of the ball busting if we did have a roast. So it'll come back to roost. And don't let Teddy fool you. He might want to have hard-hitting follow-ups, but he 100% wants to bust your balls, Jesse Schule. Boom! There we go. Wager Talk Today, Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. And you can watch the replay 24/7. All seriousness, Jesse does a great job here on Wager Talk TV. When the NBA Finals start next week, be sure to check out his daily breakdowns for the Mavs Celtics each and every game. Yet another reason to hit subscribe and hit that bell for instant alerts when those videos go live. And, of course, you can get Jesse's best bets each and every day, including Friday at sportsmemo.com. And Jesse, you mentioned you missed that play last night, but you've been red hot in the NBA, just red hot overall. Let us know about those current streaks you've got going. I think it's 11-0, the last 11 5% MLB plays, 10-0, the last 5% totals. I mean, when you put big plays out, they normally cash. I know last night missed, but once again, nice run. What do you have going on at sportsmemo.com?
Well, it probably surprises nobody that I got a 5% play already posted for game one of the NBA Finals. I got 3 plays going off today, 2 of them in baseball, 1 of them on the ice, and they're all quite affordable. So I think it's a fill your cart special over at Sports Memo, 25% off everything. I don't know if that's site-wide at Wager Talk as well, but certainly at Sports Memo today.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. I buried the lead. It's actually a huge day at both Sports Memo and Wager Talk. Thank you for that reminder. It is 25% off everything you can fit in your damn cart. And that's both Sports Memo and WagerTalk.com. So this is Friday only. It expires at midnight. This is your one day to load up, and you've got to use promo code SUMMERCART, 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 and you get an instant 25% off anything you put in there. It can be a 1 day up to a 1 year. It can be a seasonal subscription. You see the promo right there on the screen, SUMMERCART. This is the day to get a subscription. Look, you can use it for a 1 day and save like a few dollars. But if you've been thinking about doing like a 3-month, a 6-month, a 9-month, a full year, whatever you want to do, load it up. Multiple purchases allowed, and you get an instant 25% off. This is how you make money, is by lowering the cost of investment. And today, May 31st, at both sportsmemo.com and wagertalk.com is the day to do it with the Summer Cart promo code, which gets an instant 25% discount on everything up until midnight only. Check it out right now, sportsmemo.com and wagertalk.com. All right, going to get back to some more baseball in a moment with another great NBA video guy, Ross Benjamin. It's Friday. Jesse, myself, Ross, and of course, Teddy does his Wake Up and Win report every day, and he doesn't need basketball because there's baseball as well. So check out Teddy's Wake Up and Win here on Wager Talk TV. So very appropriate that the Friday cast here is doing a lot of in-depth content on a daily basis here on Wager Talk TV. We're going to talk some baseball in a moment with Ross, but Teddy, got to talk politics. I love that you brought this up for your What Bettors Learn, because you and I were both government majors, poli-sci majors, whatever you want to call it. We follow the political odds. And I'll be honest, Teddy, the first thing I did last night when I saw that the verdict came in was check the European betting markets. And I'll let you lead in, and then I'll follow up with whatever else you don't cover. But was curious to see how the odds moved. I'm very interested to get your take on the current political odds, Biden, Trump for the presidency.
Now, let me make this very clear in What Bettors Learn. This is not about who you like. The betting markets don't care who you are going to vote for. They don't care who I'm going to vote for. And you're not going to know which way I'm voting either. I mean, look, I've got the Bass Pro Cup today with the True Timber Camo. That's probably a Republican cup. I've also got a Ben and Jerry's cup that gets used as well. So you're not going to know. If you can, feel free to post your opinion of who you think I will vote for in the comments section. That's fine. But I'm not going to tell you. You know, the Michael Jordan quote from the 80s about, not getting political still holds true. The old, Republicans buy sneakers too. So this isn't about my opinion. It's not about your opinion or Steve's opinion or anyone's opinion. This is about the global betting marketplace. And in fact, it's only the global betting marketplace because U.S. bookmakers don't allow betting on elections. It's not legal and regulated. Why? I don't know why. It's something we can lobby for. There's no good reason why, at least in this bettor's opinion, why we can't do it legally in this country. Nonetheless, we're only talking about global markets here outside the U.S. UK bookmakers allow betting on elections, and it's huge. All right. In fact, from one offshore bookmaker that I'm from, Dave Mason, that we know, we all know Dave Mason, I think. The 2020 election was the single biggest betting event in the history of offshore, bigger than any Super Bowl. Okay. So yesterday, former president and current candidate Donald Trump was found guilty on 34 counts. The odds this morning, Trump minus 130, Biden plus 110. That's what I learned last night. Steve?
Well, I think more importantly, we want to see what the odds were a week ago, because he is still favored, but he has come down a bit. In fact, I checked the European betting markets, a lot of Betfair, and a lot of the exchanges. Going into yesterday, he was as high as 54%. He fell to 50% last night. As I'm checking it right now, he's back up to 51%. Biden is interesting too. Biden was as low as 38%. And by the way, let's make this very clear. This is not a two-man race. And in fact, this is one of the things I've never seen before, is that we're talking about an 8 to 10% third candidate factor in this right now. Because yes, you can look at Republican versus Democrat. I think right now it's 53% in the betting markets, Republican versus Democrat, with also a little bit of a third party factored in. But Trump was 54%, Biden was 39%. So that was a 7% somebody else a week ago. Last night after the verdict, it went to 50 to 41. That 9% still there. And today it's about 51-40, Trump, Biden. So there's still a 9% factor, according to the betting market. They could be neither one of them, which I find fascinating. It obviously makes a lot of sense because they both are extremely flawed in different ways. They're both almost 80 years old. But the VP odds are interesting also for those that haven't been following them. Tim Scott's been around 20% for a month or two. He hasn't moved much. J.D. Vance, the senator from Ohio, is around 9% to be Trump's VP. That's, of course, a swing state. Ben Carson, 5%, which I thought was interesting. And Nikki Haley's the real X factor, I think. She's at 4%. I know they don't get along no more, but, man, I just don't see how you don't pick her if you wanted to strengthen that ticket, especially with everything that's going on. And she's only at 4%. 25 to 1 odds, that'd be the true odds. I think that's worth a little bit of a flyer, in my opinion. Teddy, do you see anything on the undercard here that you're looking at?
So first, Ohio's not a swing state. Ohio's a red state. Ohio was a swing state.
Yeah, but Ohio's decided every presidential election but one since like the 60s, I think. So that's why I call it a swing state.
Go look
it's an incredibly important state with the election.
Ohio's not a swing state. It's not. Dude, it's not. Ohio's a red state. You can call Nevada a swing state. You can call North Carolina a swing state, or Michigan, or Wisconsin.
It's reddish. I don't disagree with that, but it's not a slam
It's red.
But anyway,
it's not reddish. It's red.
It's a key state in most elections for about the last century, though. That was my point, I guess. Ball bust me,
So what the odds were, we were talking about Trump minus 160 before the verdict. Again, these are, offshore numbers. They're global market numbers. They're not U.S. numbers. It dropped to minus 120 immediately after the verdict and then bet back up to minus 130 this morning. So that's the move. There was a move to Biden. It didn't even get to pick him. And now Trump's picking, Trump took money off of that. So that's what the presidential markets are doing. And it's not something we're going to talk about every day. But when something happens, we absolutely will talk about presidential betting odds. It's a fascinating discussion. It's something that both Steve and I have been doing for a long time. Come on, find me. I see you over there looking. You're trying to find one. Something blue in Ohio. It's been red for
I'm actually
20 years, dude.
No, I'm looking. No, I'm not even looking at it. I'm looking at the betting odds still. I was trying to find something else interesting to talk about. This is another one I wanted to bring up real quick. I saw this a few weeks ago, Teddy, and I find this fascinating. Biden resigns first term, 90%, which means the betting markets are saying there's a 10% chance still that Biden doesn't finish the first term. And I just find that fascinating because we're talking about less than a year remaining after, 4 years almost. But then again, I think that coincides with the fact that there's a 9% third person candidate, that's undecided still in the betting market. I don't know. I just find that's maybe the most fascinating of all the odds out there, that the betting market still think there's only a 90% chance he finishes this term. Thought that was interesting.
The best way, if you're looking to bet this, in theory, is to find a place where it's Democrat or Republican.
Right.
Those odds do exist, and you can find them. if you're looking around in the global community, as opposed to, well, here's Joe Biden's odds. Ooh, there's Kamala Harris's odds. Ooh, there's some other random, there's Hillary Clinton odds out there. Like she's going to run, like she's somehow going to get the nomination this year. But of course, for many of these, you can't bet the no. You can only bet the yes.
Yeah, by the way, the Republican versus Democrat right now is 56.5 to 48 or whatever it would be. There's a 1% third party built into that. So that's what you're saying. You're getting closer to that 100% with the two parties. Michelle Obama's at 3%. Kennedy's at 2%. Harris is at 2%. Nikki Haley, 1%. Gavin Newsom, 1%. He was as high as 3 to 5% about a month ago. He has fallen. But right now, if you look past Trump, 51, Biden, 40, Michelle Obama, 3%. She's been on my radar for several years now, and I think that's another reason maybe there's some logic that Biden doesn't finish the term. But if she comes in, I don't see how he wouldn't finish the term. But anyway, my two sleepers, we can go back and play the video in a few months. Nikki Haley at 25 to 1 to be VP, Michelle Obama at 33 to 1 to be the next president. Yeah, you could have worse lottery tickets than that, I think, in my opinion. Teddy, on the way out, give us a long shot bet if you have one.
I would not even think about making a long shot bet. It's going to be, so let's start with this. It's going to be Trump or Biden unless one of them dies. Okay. And if Biden dies, it'll be Kamala Harris. It's done. All right. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So you can take your Michelle Obama money or whatever. I'll book as much as you want of Michelle Obama to be the next president. It ain't happening.
It most likely is not. And that's why it's 3%, but it's a long shot. And that's why we call them long shots. Hey, good segment here.
Harris there's no chance that Michelle Obama gets the nomination if something happens to Biden. It goes to Harris. That's what I don't understand why you would.
No, I don't think. We'll know in a few months. I think the only way any of this stuff happens with Trump or Biden are not the two candidates is at the convention still, and there's still a lot of uncertainty there. But I agree with you. If something happens to Biden, it's going to be Harris because she's the VP. That's just how it works. The conventions are going to be the great equalizers here in a couple months, and we'll see what happens. And we will revisit this later this summer after the conventions and let you know how the odds have changed as well. But yeah, look, we're talking soccer, we're talking politics. We're going to get back to baseball now with Ross Benjamin. But as Ross knows, those are two much bigger betting markets that we just talked about than the MLB markets. And that's what's so crazy. And speaking of politicians, Ross could actually run for prime minister for Canada, or he could be the U.S. president because he's right near the border up there. And on a daily basis, he hops back and forth just to keep his options open. That's a little known fact about Ross Benjamin, like to bust his balls being from so far up in New York. But Ross, welcome to the show. You also can be found at sportsmemo.com. And just like Jesse and myself, you're doing daily NBA videos, and you'll continue to do so next week with the finals. But let's talk some baseball here. We'll get back to one of our daily sports.
I just want to tell you, Steve, if I can interject, I'm so flattered to be on another edition of 60 Minutes with you guys, So now that we got the presidential.
Teddy with the grayer hair looks a lot like that 60 Minutes cast. They've been aging well, though, but they don't bust balls like Teddy. 60 Minutes needs Teddy, man. He has some good follow-up.
There's nobody busts balls like Teddy. There's no doubt about it. Teddy, I'm thinking about Kennedy here and the sports bettors. We all know the sports bettors, every time they lose, they think there's a conspiracy. So I would think the majority of sports bettors would be on Kennedy as a third-party candidate.
Yeah, because third-party candidates have such a great track record in presidential elections.
I'm just saying, man, the conspiracy theorists. You know what I'm saying? It's a joke, Teddy. It's a joke.
I do agree with Teddy that the Republican versus Democratic, that's the way to play this because the prices are very similar, and you're taking out all the death of the 80-year-olds, the convention changes, which I think that's the big X factor, as I said, is the convention changes. So I do agree Republican Democrats the way to go. Ross, Houston Astros, they've been presidential candidates for the past decade or so. They started very slow this season. You're wearing your Houston orange, it looks like. What are you doing with this Twins Minnesota-Houston game tonight?
I don't know if that's the reason why I wore the shirt, but anyway, yeah, you're right. I mean, talk about there's a couple teams you could really put in the category of underachieving this year, and I'm talking about two of them today. I'll get to the Padres game next, but Houston's certainly one of those teams. They've really struggled over the last 7 games offensively, but keep in mind all of those games were played at home. They're much better offensively at home than they are on the road. They have won 7 of their last 10 at home and averaged 5.2 runs per game over that course of time. Now, this is a Minnesota team. You look at their away record. They've won 10 of their last 15 on the road. But, keep in mind, 3 of those 4 teams had losing records, namely the Nationals, Angels, and White Sox, who are combined 62 and 106 so far this year. So that 10-5 in their last 15 on the road doesn't overly impress me considering the level of competition they faced. Ronaldo Blanco gets the start for the Houston Astros, and that's significant to me because Houston this year, when Blanco's on the mound, they are 8-1 in his 1.99 ERA and 101 WHIP through that course of time has a lot to do with it. He's also averaging a healthy 6 innings pitched per start. And the Houston bullpen over their last 7 has done a very good job as a staff, a 2.04 ERA and a 1.19 WHIP during that time. The Astros pitching staff as a whole over the last 9 games is only allowing 2.4 runs per game. Pablo Lopez, he's intriguing to me, Steve, in the respect that when he first came up to the majors with the Marlins and then later being traded to the Twins, I thought this guy was going to be a genuine star the way he started out. But you know what? He's hit sort of a brick wall that a lot of young pitchers do early on in their career, and especially so over his last 3 starts where he's shown terrible form with a 9.60 ERA and 1.69 WHIP. And he's also allowed during those last 3 starts 5 home runs in 16 innings pitched, and he's going to be facing a Houston team. I mentioned they're much better hitting at home than on the road. Well, the Astros have hit 42 home runs in 29 home games this year. So to me, that's alarming that he's given up the long ball with the frequency he has over the last 3 starts and the way Houston is prone to hitting the long ball at home. And also, the contrarian mindset of mine, you got a Minnesota team 31-25, a Houston team 25-32, but here we are. Houston's a small money line favorite in the spot. I'm going to go with Houston minus 115 over Minnesota, Teddy.
So I want to ask you this, because in my mind, the Twins, I'll call them the streakiest team in baseball this year. All right. What they win? They win 12 in a row and 16 out of 18. Then they lost, 7 in a row and 9 out of 10. And now they're red hot again. They're as hot as anyone in baseball. When you have a streaky team like the Twins, why do you want to stand in front of them when they're streaking up?
Well, I mean, a streaky team, again, you mentioned it. To me, if a team is really good and you're convinced of the fact this is a genuine top 5 team in baseball and they're red hot, that's one thing. I don't feel that way about the Twins. So they don't scare me in this situation. And I don't think the Twins are as good as their record is. And I think Houston's much better than their record is. And I think Houston's a team, for me, to keep an eye on going forward, because you may be able to get them in a situation where you're getting value on them just because of their disappointing start to the season. So that's where my mindset is on this one, Teddy.
Yeah, Ross, I mean, we talk about how long the baseball season is. We're kind of in that second quarter, in my opinion, of the 162-game season. And the Astros were obviously a play against in that first quarter, but they have shown some life here, the second one. Going to get to another MLB game with Ross Benjamin from sportsmemo.com in just a moment. Live chat here on the show today is heating up. By the way, Big Daddy, who's one of our most loyal and I believe sharpest viewers, he said Michelle Obama before I even mentioned it. I just saw that in the live chat. So take that, Teddy Covers. Keith Landry said that Teddy would be the Prez's campaign manager. That is 100% accurate. I could see that in a heartbeat. And then Keith also says The Rock at 90-1. Like where he's going with that. I think he might be one cycle early, but The Rock could be the next Donald Trump, in my opinion. Mark Cuban might be the next Donald Trump, too, as far as a celebrity candidate in 4 years or so. So keep the live chat questions and comments coming. And most importantly, replay. Comment below here on YouTube if you're watching the replay. Let us know your thoughts on who to bet here in the 2024 presidential election. And Ross the Boss, I see that in the chat as well, Ross, and we're going to talk another baseball game with you. You know, you mentioned the Padres may be underachieving, but I think the big storyline in this game is that the Royals have been overachieving, 35-23 starts. Kansas City, though, has lost 4 of their last 5. So are they starting to come back down to earth? Padres at Royals.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at their home and away splits, it doesn't shock me. They've lost 4 of their last 5. But I would say this, I'm not so convinced they're overachieving, Steve, if you look at the big picture here, because in terms of their chances to win the AL Central, I think out of all the teams in the AL Central, I think that Kansas City is more sustainable what they're doing right now than the Cleveland Guardians. That's just my opinion. I don't have a lot of factual information to back that other than my eye test. All right, so we got Dylan Cease against Michael Wacha tonight. And Padres 13-19 at home, but a very good 17-10 on the road. But they vastly have underachieved so far. And conversely, this is a Kansas City team that I just touched upon, Steve. Not so good on the road, or pretty average on the road at that, but 21-8 at home with a plus 2.1 run per game differential. That includes a current 7-game home win streak in which they've outscored opponents 51-22. Here's a red flag with the Padres. They've scored 2 runs or less in 6 of their last 10. They've also been shut out 3 times during that stretch and only averaging 2.6 runs per game over those last 10. Now let's look at the starting pitchers. Michael Wacha, last 3 starts, he's been in really good form with a 2.37 ERA, a 0.84 whip. He's averaging 6.3 innings pitched per start. Notice I always bring up the average innings pitched per start. That's a vital part of me handicapping the starting pitcher because that shortens the length of what we have to depend on the bullpen. And also since 2022, Wacha 22-6 in his home starts and 11-2 in its home starts if the money line is between plus 125 and minus 125 like it is tonight. So Wacha has fared very well at home. That plus 125 to minus 125 signifies to me he has a starting pitcher going against him they feel is pretty even, and the teams that he's on in those matchups, they look to that to be an even matchup. So he's done very well in those types of betting situations. Dylan Cease, on the other hand, his last 3 starts, not so good. 6.61 ERA, 159 whip, and 4 home runs allowed in 16 and the third innings pitched. This will be his first start against the Royals this year. He made 2 against the Royals last year, and the Royals really had his number last year as Cease pitched to a 9.58 ERA and 194 whip against Kansas City last year. I think there's value here. I'm looking at the last I looked, Steve, and you could correct me if I'm wrong. Kansas City was anywhere from a plus 105 to a plus 115 money line home underdog here. I think there's a lot of value here to the Royals in this spot. I'm going to take the Kansas City Royals as a money line underdog at home against the San Diego Padres, Teddy.
Looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen right now, you can get the Royals as high as plus 125. And if you shop around, you can probably find even a little bit better than that. KC, a live underdog, says Ross Benjamin. Of course it is. Fill your cart Friday. Take 25% off anything and everything you put in your cart. Just use promo code SUMMERCART. And of course, Ross Benjamin is a great candidate to use. And of course, you can use for anyone. You can put me and Ross and Steve and whoever else you want in your cart today. But Ross, 77-54, plus 57 units in MLB. He's riding 45-26 NBA run. He's better than 62% in the NBA postseason since 2022. And oh, by the way, 437 and 372 plus more than 70 units of profit since August across sports. So Ross, an excellent candidate to consider. Anything you want to promote for today, Mr. Benjamin, before we let you go?
Yeah, I'll have 3 Major League Baseball picks up shortly, all in the same package as you guys alluded to already with the special going on at Sports Memo. So look forward to that. And just one other thing. A lot of people keep questioning me on my NBA videos because I advertise myself as number 1 in the postseason, and they're telling me how could I be number 1 and Steve Merrill be number 1? Just to clarify out there, folks, we're on 2 separate websites, and Steve is number 1 in the regular season, postseason combined, where I'm just specifically at Sports Memo number 1 over the last 3 years in the postseason. So just, always trying to be transparent here, Teddy and Steve.
Yeah, Ross, I'm glad you brought that up because I get the same question. And I was like, well, Ross and I are both great NBA cappers. Ross is dominating over at Sports Memo, and I'm dominating at the WagerTalk side. Number 1 this season and number 1 all time in units won at WagerTalk. And once again, Ross and Jesse are at Sports Memo. And by the way, that fill your cart 25% off works at both sites today. Unlimited purchases. So you can go there right now and get Ross. You can get Jesse. You go to WagerTalk, get myself and Teddy for the rest of the NBA playoffs for the lowest price of the season and get another quarter off of that. So don't miss out. Use Summer Cart for that promo code at both WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. And once again, next week when the finals begin, be sure to keep an eye out for Ross Benjamin's daily NBA videos here on WagerTalk TV. The chat is lighting up. Dan Alexander is going to be my PR manager. Allie Queen has nominated me for president. I have accepted the nomination. This all happened here live on WagerTalk TV while Ross was breaking down 2 MLB games. And Teddy, I've given you the role as debate prepper for me. You're going to be my debate prepper. You'll be the opposing guy, and just you can give me all those follow-up questions that you're famous for, and that'll get me ready for the great debate. So we have this all figured out here in just 30 minutes of WagerTalk Today. We are changing the country. Once again, comment below on the replay, though. We do read the comments and reply back. I love the support here. Thumbs up, like, click subscribe, and hit that bell as well for instant alerts. Don't forget the baseball show will be on at 2 o'clock Eastern. My PR manager, Dan the Man Alexander, will be hosting. I'll be on as well, breaking down a ton of more baseball games here at 2 o'clock Eastern live. And by the way, we take interactive questions in the chat on YouTube, WagerTalk TV, YouTube Shorts. And those that want to start day drinking early can do so on Instagram. No NBA show today because there's no NBA till next week, but we do have baseball at 2 o'clock Eastern. All right, speaking of day drinking, Teddy Covers has had to do that quite a bit this past week with his New York Mets. Teddy, what are we doing with this mess of a Mets Diamondbacks, your big game breakdown?
I'm no fan anymore. They were my Mets as a kid. They're not my Mets now. That being said, I want to talk about the Mets right now. Complete cluster bleep, right? 22-33 heading into last night. They can't hit. The bullpen's been a disaster. They were 1-8 in their last 9 games. All the buzz, they were going to break up the team at the trade deadline, just like they did last year when they were a cluster F and went 75 and 87. All right. Team, again, the third worst record in the National League. With the biggest payroll, they're ahead of only the Marlins and the Rockies. And then Francisco Lindor calls a players-only meeting. Quote, "We've got to have a sense of urgency, and we've got to get it done." And then what happened? He went 4 for 4. He hit a home run to get the Mets on the board. He hit the RBI single to tie the game. And the Mets ended up winning. All right? They rallied to win. The bullpen held up. Quote from Lindor after the game, "It felt good to contribute to a team win. This is not about being the main character of a whole team meeting. That's not what this is about. Anyone could have a good night tonight, and I would have been happy. Just worked out it was me. Tomorrow, it's going to be somebody else." Is this a potential value team here? We're all talking about the Astros are going to be good and all that. Maybe the Mets have the potential as a team to ride. And if you're going to jump on a streak like this, say, all right, yeah, let's take a look at the Nets for the next week or two. They start to win. All right, jump on it early. And I think the Mets absolutely might be worth riding here. First of all, this is not a 400 baseball team, all right? This isn't the Marlins. This isn't the Rockies. They have talent. Pete Alonso, big concerns about his injury. Well, he ended up getting a pinch hit last night. In fact, he did a pinch hit double and scored the winning run. So Alonso's not nearly as injured as people might have thought. Arizona's ice cold right now, all right? They've lost 4 in a row. They haven't been above 500 since the first week of April. They used up their bullpen yesterday after Zach Gallen didn't get an out. He got pulled after throwing 6 innings. And his track record against the Mets, 4 starts, 0-3 with a ERA over 8. Yeah, let's ride the Metropolitans. -115, you can find them right now. I think that's cheap. New York Mets. That's a client play for me today on Friday. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Yeah, Teddy, we talk so much about, starting pitching and everything when handicapping baseball. But as I mentioned earlier with Ross, it's a 162-game season. You see these ebbs and flows. It's almost like different quadrants of the season. The Mets obviously losing, 8 out of 9 until last night. It looked like they were in a free fall. But at some point, there's going to be a bottoming process, and there's usually a catalyst. And you do have to wonder, the way those games played out the other night, if that maybe was the catalyst. We're going to look back and say, hey, that was a spark plug for this team. I'm wondering the same thing about Atlanta as well, with Acuna being out. I thought that might spark them. We haven't seen that yet. Braves lost back-to-back games as favorites against my Washington Nationals. When they're winning, they're my Nationals. They're back on track. But the Braves have lost 3 out of 4 in 5 of their last 7. So we'll see if they do turn things around like they did a couple years ago when Acuna was out and they went on to win the World Series. But something to keep an eye on. I think you might be right with the Mets here that things are starting to change, even though it's kind of counterintuitive. All right, let's bring on Arthur DiCesare from the Westgate Superbook in Nevada. He's on Fridays, but he's on Tuesdays as well, twice as nice. And I always love guest hosting on Friday, Art, because I get to talk with you. I think it's the most informative segment of the week. It's even better, I got to be honest, during the football season on Fridays because we get a ton of college and pro football info heading into the weekend. But looking forward to having you on Tuesdays this year as well for the early actionable info. Before we get to the NBA Finals, maybe some NHL, let's stay with the baseball theme. I just want to ask you right now, what's your future book looking like? You are the risk supervisor for the Westgate, so any teams causing concern? Acuna, I mean, the Braves maybe being out of the picture, a good thing. What are your thoughts on baseball futures?
Yeah, the Braves being out of the spot, probably a good thing. But I say this, the Phillies, not that the Phillies were really down on the board, but obviously they've really shot up the board here, obviously in the first 50 games of the season. So the Phillies are a team that obviously we're keeping our eye out on. Houston is a team I'm going to keep going back to. We haven't reached a point yet. Now, they've played better here in the last 2 weeks, but we didn't reach a point where we were sitting at 14, 16-1 for them to win the World Series, and people jumped on them. I don't know. People might get late to the party and jump on them late. Now, they haven't played well in Seattle, but I don't know what to make of that Houston team. I'd say right now, of the teams who realistically we think have a shot to win it all, I would say the Phillies. I have to throw the Guardians in there as well. Obviously going to be really tough in the American League. Not a lot of people talk about how good they've been. You got to throw the Royals in there as well. But, Royal long shot tickets were like bet at $5 and $10. There wasn't anyone coming in dropping a nickel or a dime on the Royals to do anything. A lot of Bobby Witt money to win the MVP, which can happen, but obviously he was one of the, top 3 or 4 candidates. So, I would say Guardians, Royals, third, but I'd say the Phillies right now.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's talk about underachievers for a minute. So far, we can put Tampa on that list, maybe Toronto on that list. Certainly, I would put the Houston Astros on a list of underachievers so far this season. The New York Mets would be on that list of underachievers this year. And maybe, I don't know, you can put Texas and Arizona on there if you want, the 2 teams that met in the World Series last year. Out of all of those underachievers, does anyone stand out to you as being bet on moving forward, a team we can make money with right now, a team if we want futures, we can bet them right now for that team? Or are the majority of these teams, all of these teams, bet against moving forward?
One team I would add to, Teddy, is obviously the Padres because of all their talent. They got a ton of talent. The bet-on team to me would be Texas. I still believe in Texas. Now, it's a gravy season for them. They won it all last year. But I still think they have a shot to make a move, in the last 100-plus games of the season. Arizona might have just gotten to the dance a little early last year, and now they've come back to life because they're obviously a very young team. And obviously some of their young guys haven't gotten off to really great starts this year. And Texas, to be fair, they're dealing with a ton of injuries as well with a lot of their young guys who haven't played well. Seager's been playing great here in the last couple of weeks. We've actually seen a lot of MVP votes come in for him at, 50, 60-1 because he's been on a hot streak. He's like 4th or 5th in the league in home runs. Texas is a team I still believe in.
So I want to ask you this, because you said that the Padres are an underachieving team. And when they lined at 83, 84 wins, they were lined right at 500. They're game over 500. What makes you think they're underachievers right now?
That is fair, Teddy. And obviously in that division, obviously the Dodgers are going to be the runaway team. And if you do look at a win total like that, I just think that the perception of the Padres, maybe not the betting perception of, a team with an 83, 83.5, 84 win total is underachieving, but they have so much star power and have just been a team who's kind of been on the cusp the last couple of years. And I know every year, not that we take sharp bets on it, but every year we take Padre money, whether it's the World Series, or Tatis to win the MVP, or their win total over, or for them somehow to win that division and take it over from the Dodgers. It always feels like when the Padres don't do well, it's always a positive for us. So I think the public looks at them as a winning type of team. But you are right, and it is a fair point with their win total in that range.
Well, you probably get a lot of the California money coming in on weekends, too. I would think Dodgers, Padres, whatnot plays a role to that, too, obviously, in Las Vegas. Art, speaking of futures liability, we got 2 teams that can win the NBA title now, Mavericks and, of course, Celtics. I know you said that Pacers-Knicks series, you had some liability, I think, on the Pacers. They're out of the picture now totally. First of all, let us know if you have a preferred side for the book in this one and just your thoughts on the NBA Finals and where you guys hung that Game 1 price and the series price.
Absolutely. Both conferences. Mavericks to win the West was fine. Boston win the East, worked out perfectly. Right now, we're rooting for Boston. If the Mavericks end up winning the title, it will be a loss for us in the future book. So we are rooting for Boston. Open the series, minus 210. Early Boston money came in. We're now minus 220. Take back on the Mavs, plus 195. Game 1 opener, 6-214. Both have moved half a point. We now have Boston minus 6.5, early money there. And then early money on the over, but not really, sharp or anything. Just kind of move with the market, 214.5 now. So both the side and the total have ticked up half a point.
Interesting. Arthur DiCesare, Westgate Superbook risk managers saying they would like to see the Celtics win the NBA Finals for what it's worth. And once again, that's why I love talking to Art every Friday, but we also get him Tuesday here on the show twice a week because twice is nice with Arthur DiCesare. Follow him on Twitter, X, whatever we call it now, X Twitter. I think that's the most appropriate name, at ArtDice21, at ArtDice21 on X Twitter for some great information. And Art, I want to ask you also along the same lines, NHL playoffs are still going on. Florida's up 3-2, Dallas, Edmonton tied 2-2. Give us some hockey. It's a Prez free zone, but we need some hockey talk still.
It is a Prez free zone. Look at obviously a big pivotal Game 5 tonight in Dallas. That series is tied 2-2. Game 5 line, it's real tight. Dallas minus 122. Take back on Edmonton plus 112. Obviously dealing 10-cent lines. You're going to have really nice low, some low value on your dog, on your favorite. Not giving away too much with the dog. It's been a tight series. Really good two-way on this. Kind of seeing action on both sides. Total, we opened 6 under 20. We've now moved to 5.5 over 20. This has been one of those series where we're kind of straddling the 6 and 5.5. The other series, not so much. Obviously, this game will go off tomorrow. Rangers looking to stave off elimination in Florida. Florida up 3-2. Game 6 line, Florida minus $1.68. That could go even higher. And the total on this, every game outside of Game 3, which was the outlier, have been unders. We're sitting 5.5, under 135. This is the classic Prez likes it. It's an elimination game. You take the over, some crazy stuff could happen. I disagree with Prez. All these games are 2-1. If Igor doesn't play in the game, sure, the game goes over. But obviously he plays. These are all under games, and Florida will close it out on Saturday. I hate to say it. I don't ever endorse laying that type of favorite. But the ice is tilted in Florida's favor. Florida will close it out and go to the Cup.
A strong opinion from Arthur DiCesare. Love to hear those, my friend. There was a level of confidence in your voice against your New York Rangers. Art, before we let you go, and we love having you on the show, we talked some NFL earlier in the week. And again, we're not going to spend hours and hours talking football over the summer, but we're damn well going to talk about it because football is king. And I'm looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, and I'm seeing a whole bunch of college football numbers posted now at the Westgate Superbook. Tell me about them. And where's the early money flowing in college football for week 1?
Yeah, Teddy, absolutely. We did put up some college football. And to be fair, I wish I could come on here and say we had some sharps come in and make bets and, do things of that nature. It just hasn't really happened. I mean, our numbers have gone up. The thing you see when early college numbers go up, even the NFL, is some guys come in and they just make some parlays. Maybe they're in town and maybe they figure they'll be back in town for week 2 or week 3 or week 4 and they want to have a parlay moving forward. Nothing really has stood out. So obviously the second I get any information, I do have an NFL game though that stood out that kind of moved yesterday. We took a lot of Steeler money, and I know we had talked Sharps are going to lay 2.5, Sharps are going to take 3. Sharps took +3 with the Steelers yesterday, at Atlanta in week 1. We moved to Steelers +3 minus 120, still took some money, and then we had to go to the 2.5. So it'd be interesting to see if other groups now come in and lay the 2.5 with Atlanta. NFL is just king. College hasn't gotten there yet. I think once we get our season win totals, our games of the year up, maybe the college football betting menu will open up a little bit more for people, and they'll start putting eyes on it. And as you know, Teddy, people might have not gotten their Phil Steele magazines yet, so they don't want to fire yet.
So, I mean, my opinion, this is just a theory, but my theory is that you're going to see a lot less wise guy college football action in May and June and July because nobody knows what these teams are going to look like. The transfer portal is insane. I was
Right.
trying to do some college football work. I'm like, it's way too early to do college football work right now. You don't know who's going to be there. So I think that's likely to affect your handle over the summer. Agree or disagree?
I don't disagree. It's a great point. And listen, it's what we talk about. There are other people. I've talked to people who believe in a key number in college football and people who don't. NFL games is going to be a lot of them in that 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5 range.
Nope.
And like we said, sharps are just going to find it. They're going to lay 2.5. They're going to take 3. They're going to take 3.5. There's not as many opportunities in college. And to be fair with the college, we don't have any totals up. It's just sides. So we have a lot of people who love to come in and play college totals. College totals move, you guys know, during the season, 4, 5, 6 points one way. I mean, it really happens. So with no totals up as well, obviously the betting menu is really scaled back. And like you said, with all the uncertainty of who plays on these teams, what conferences they're in, all that type of stuff, I don't disagree with that. You normally see, for us, when our games of the year go up, which should probably be in the next couple of weeks here, we always look mid to late June, then you start to see some guys come in with some real opinions on some games.
Yeah, Art, we've talked about this before. I mean, the only reason you would tie up your bankroll for 5 months or 6 months ahead of time is because you think you're getting a much better number than you're going to get the week of the game. It makes no sense there's no other reason to play these in advance. And if you think there's less key numbers in college, then you're less likely to grab a 2 or 2.5 if you think it's going to go 3.5, 4, in the favorite or vice versa. So, but Teddy's point is 100% spot on. I'm not even looking at college football right now. I do an Alabama ESPN show every week. They want to talk college football futures and whatnot, and I'll talk them with them, but we don't even know who's playing right now. So I think it's a good point in why you're going to see less action than ever.
And why Phil Steele is probably going to be worth less this year than it usually is.
Good point.
Phil Steele moves to market, but when Phil Steele posted, his stuff's going to be outdated by the time it gets sent to your door. Arthur, what do you have to promote, my friend, before we let you go?
Yeah, guys, listen, always a pleasure coming on. Steve, always love seeing you on a Friday. Listen, Westgate guys, come down. Listen, we're starting to get into the summer months. We're starting to get into some vacations that will be coming up, but we still got the NBA Finals. We're going to have the NHL. Listen, WNBA still cooking. Baseball's cooking. And like I said, with our full NFL menu pretty much out, we're still looking to add some player props and things of that nature. But I'd say, 90% of our NFL menu's out. We will get the rest of the college out coming here in the next handful of weeks. So obviously be on the lookout for that. As always, if you have questions, come down, ask for me, reach out to me on X, Twitter, whatever the case may be. And obviously with all the stuff that's going to be rolling in, anytime we have sharp action come in or things that come in for football, I'll be happy to come on Tuesdays and Fridays. That's why it's great to be on 2 times a week. We can kind of keep the listeners and viewers involved.
And once again, you can follow him 7 days a week on X Twitter at ArtDice21, at ArtDice21. It's a great handle, and he's a great follow as well. Arthur DiCesare, risk supervisor at the Westgate Superbook in Las Vegas, Nevada. And enjoyed hosting today. Thank you once again to Sports Memo's Jesse Schule and Ross Benjamin. You can find them both at Sports Memo. I'm, of course, Steve Merrill. You can find myself and my co-host Teddy Covers at WagerTalk.com. And once again, this Friday only, the last day of May, is one of your best opportunities all year to save big on a direct subscription. If you've been thinking about getting one of the bigger packages, now is the time to do it because you save an instant 25% with the Fill Your Cart special this Friday and Friday only. Use promo code SUMMERCART, SUMMERCART. You'll see it on the screen there, SUMMERCART. Go through that shopping aisle right now that's on your screen and fill it with maybe a 1 day, a 3 day, a 7 day. Yeah, you save a couple dollars by doing that, but how about a 90 day, a 3 month, or a 1 year, or a full season, a football season coming up with the rest of baseball? You can save hundreds of dollars instantly and get all the best bets from any capper every day, wagertalk.com and sportsmemo.com. Hey, the live chat was pumping. Too much to mention here. A guy named Dan Alexander, longtime viewer, first-time caller, I believe, is really liking the bottoming process comment I made. So I'll have to be sure to include that 10 more times on the MLB show live at 2 o'clock Eastern today on Friday. So check us out live at 2 Eastern. Keith Landry, you are going to be my slogan guy for my presidential run. You've had some great ones. Art the Dart is one of them that he had in there. He said, art is a work of art. He's a true work of art. He's got some good ones. Keith Landry, thank you for coming in. Have Cash, Eric D, Big Daddy, salute to you as always, and all the other great viewers on the live. And don't forget, if you're watching the replay, comment below. I read all the comments, and I do reply back here on Wager Talk TV. Thumbs up, like, subscribe, and hit the bell for instant alerts. thanks to all the viewers out there. Teddy, you'll be back, I believe, with the Prez on Monday, so look forward to that this weekend and take us home.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the week here at WagerTalk Today. We'll do it again next week, each and every weekday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, live on WagerTalk TV. Between now and Monday's show, enjoy the games, enjoy your weekend, and best of luck with all your wagers.